While no great swordsman myself, it often falls to me to teach new players how to fight at part. Not how to win fights, but how to play Amtgard safe. I am Squire Callahan Ridgeborn, almost a battle master, always a wizard, and today we're going to be talking about the basics of Amtgard. Now, this is not a video about stances and trick shots and anything like that, but this is a base introduction to how the combat system in Amtgard works, how to know who has won a fight. So let's jump right into it. Let's talk about valid hit location. Hits are a contact that is a wound delivering contact. What do we mean by that? So there are two kinds of hits that are allowed in Amtgard. There is a slash. A slash is where you have a percussive contact with a player, and your sword either pops bouncing back, or if it stops definitively on the victim. Now, if your sword kind of slithers around like this, that does not count as a slash. It is what a lot of people would refer to as buttering toast, and they're not going to take those hits. Now, the other type of contact that you'll have is a stab, where you take your sword and you poke it into the player. Now, a stab must definitively stop on a player or deflect off of them. Now, if you stab past them, that's not going to count. You're just sliding past them into their garb or what have you. Stab definitely needs to be felt. So those are the two kinds of hits that are okay in Amtgard. There are several kinds of non-valid hits. So a graze is where you just almost touch someone, right? If you hit their garb, for example, I don't have super floppy sleeves, but if I have floppy sleeves and you hit like this down here, you haven't hit me, you hit my outfit. Hitting the drip, unfortunately, is not going to wound anyone. Now, draw cuts are stabs where you don't make a contact with the tip, that you end up going past like this, and then on the way back you just sort of like slide your blade across their body. That's not a percussive pop with the slash, and it's not a contact with a stab, so that's not legal. Then finally, a push is where your motion is blocked. So let's say you're in a sword fight and they block your shot, and then you just sort of push it so that it goes through and it touches them. That's not going to count either, because they block the shot and you're just powering over the top of them, so that does not count either. Let's talk about where you can get hit in Amtgard, because this is important. So the very first place where you might get hit is right on the head. Headshots are not legal in Amtgard. Amtgard is a safety first LARP. So there are several LARPs out there where headshots are legal in varying degrees. In Amtgard, anything that hits you on the head does not count. You can't bounce off of someone's head into their shoulder. That won't count either. As soon as your shot hits their noggin, it doesn't count. As you can see here, you've got your head. Head is everything from your neck, basically wherever the plane of your shoulders is, up is considered your head. Next, you have the torso. So the best way I've ever had the torso really explained is anything that would be covered by a one-piece swimsuit, right? So you have the strips over here on the top of your shoulders, coming down into the pectoral area, the breadbasket, around the back to your butt, and up through the groin. All of that is your torso, and you can see that here on our little map guide. Next, your arms. So an arm is a valid hit location. If you get hit anywhere from the shoulder all the way down to the wrist, that is an arm. Now, arms are a little funky because you need to be aware, if you are holding a weapon or a shield in your hand, and you get hit in the hand, anything from like where your wristwatch would be up is your hand on weapon, and it counts as if you blocked it. Alternatively, if your hand is empty, like if you're casting a spell and it hits your hand, that counts as an arm. So be aware of that. Legs. So your legs are everything from right underneath your butt cheek all the way down to your ankle. And your legs are important because they help you move around, so try not to get hit in those. Now you have your foot on the ground. So everything from the ball of your ankle down to your foot, basically everything covered by your shoe, is foot on ground. Now, if you're wearing really high boots, you don't get to have foot on ground all the way up to your knee. But anything that would be covered by a reasonable sized tennis shoe, that's probably going to be foot. As long as your foot is physically touching the ground. As soon as your foot is up in the air, if your foot gets hit, it counts as your leg. So let's talk about posting versus dropping. So posting is when you take a wound to your leg, you plant the foot on the leg that you got hit on, and you say posting. Now, you can pivot around as you're posting, and this will be a lot easier on your knees, especially if you're older or you've had previous sports injuries like myself that make it kind of rough for you to get down on your knees to fight, posting can be a benefit to you. Now, there are some cons to posting. You can still take wounds to your dead leg when you are posting, and that leg is incapable of dodging further attacks because you cannot move your foot from that spot. Once it's posting, you can pivot on that foot, but it cannot move. And if you do move, then that counts as another wound, and then you're dead, right? So dropping has a couple of pros. The big benefit to dropping down to your knees is the wounded leg is invulnerable. It cannot take more damage. You have higher mobility, and it's easier to strike at your opponent's legs while you're down on the ground like that. The big cons, of course, is that it's a lot harder on your knees. Now, a lot of people will wear knee pads. I've gotten limited use out of my knee pads. I find that they help a little bit, but not as much as I would like. It can make it a lot harder. I'm almost 6'3" if I'm wearing my hat and my boots, so if you're down on the ground, it's gonna be a lot harder for you to get up for like shoulder shots or to hit my arms, and that can be a little bit of a difficulty. And it does make you slow over larger distances, and then it does make it a lot easier for people to reach over the top of you and hit you with those back wrap shots. So those are the cons of dropping down on your knee. I also have some things that I'd like to help you avoid in your Amtgard career. These are things that I have personally done. I can tell you right now, they hardly ever work, and if they do work, usually you end up worse off because of it. Spinning is not a great move. Now, you'll have heard undoubtedly of spin to win, or like certain players that have gotten victories off of spinning. They are the exception, not the rule. And if you were executing spins, that needs to be something you have practiced. Spinning around is usually just a good way of getting hit in the back, right? So I would avoid spinning until you really know what you're doing and you've practiced it. Flopping. Flopping is where you're squared up with somebody, and to try to get a difficult shot, you throw yourself on the ground, hoping to reach up and wrap them on the back or hit them on the butt, or even just a leg shot. And there are a bunch of cons. You are on the ground. You no longer have mobility. It's going to be a lot easier for someone to hit you. And if you're lying on the ground like that, foot on ground is not going to save you. They can hit you anywhere. It's very easy to dodge a flop. Once you see someone going for the flop, you just take one big step to the side, and now they can't get you at all. When you are flopping through the air, you cannot adjust your body. You cannot move your momentum. You're as fast as you want to be, but once you've committed to that, you can't change it. It exposes you to body shots, and you'll probably just be dead by the time you land. And then the worst part is it also exposes you to potential injury. What if there are rocks on the ground there that you didn't see and you land on one and it cuts you open? What if your cell phone is in your belt pouch and you fall on it and you shatter that phone? That could cost you $1,000 easily. Head blocking. So head blocking is where you see a shot coming and you purposefully move your face and your head to intercept the blow. This is not only stupid, it is also against the rules. The rules explicitly say you may not try to use your head for blocking, and if you are caught doing this, a good reeve will throw you off the field because you are being a danger to your... It can result in injury. If you get hit hard enough on the head, it can crunch your neck. It could give you a concussion. It's a stupid plan. Please don't try this. So, this has been the basics of Amtgard fighting. Now you understand the hit locations. You understand that 2 wounds to limbs is a death, and 1 shot to your torso can. In our next video, we're going to learn about armor and how armor can make it more difficult to wound and kill you. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video. Be sure to subscribe for more excellent battle gaming content.